My beautiful co-creators, we're in Vancouver, in BC, British Columbia, in Canada, and today I'm with Cheryl. Hello.
Bonjour, comment ça va aujourd'hui, hein? Ça va bien. C'est tout mon français. C'est fini.
That was for a little bit in French, but Cheryl is actually one of the most popular intuitive here in Vancouver, so it's really a delight to be here with you today and to see how the universe has brought us together. And you were saying that even on the way here, you had some amazing synchronicities and connections.
I did.
A message even for us for the Juicy Living Tour.
Yes, I did. Well, first of all, the role that synchronicity plays in intuition is huge. So on my drive here, I am seeing symbol after symbol, messages on license plates, just the bounty. And intuition is just about receiving the bounty that's there. So I knew that our connection was so important. And last night and this morning, really listening to the messages that I was getting for both of you and for myself in our meeting here today. So I'd like to present you with a gift from this amazing place that we're all connected to. And the gift really is again about symbology and
thank you.
I'm
going to show it.
Yes.
Wow. Interestingly enough, yesterday we were just around totems. For really the first time I was kind of introduced to the symbolism of it. So it speaks even more to me today than it would a week ago maybe.
Yeah, and this is specific for you. I had another box and I was instructed, no, it needed to be this one that I only purchased yesterday. It came into my life and I felt that the message for you was to know the extent of how much you represent inspiration to millions of people. And you have chosen to live a life that honors this calling that we all have. We all have callings. You have chosen to honor it publicly, to give hope and inspiration to others to do the same. So I'm reminded of a quote by a man who mentored Martin Luther King. And he said, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and do that, because that is what the world needs." Yes. Yes. So
that's what it's like, living a juicy life.
Yeah, it's all
living
about
a life
juice
that we love, because once we love what we do, don't we inspire others around us?
Yes, and the profound courage it takes to, we're not taught to live our juice, are we? We're not taught to drink from the water of life. And it's heady stuff, and it takes great courage to have the ability to say yes. And so the message for you was, keep doing what you're doing. And inside this beautiful box, which has a story of its own, I was also instructed to bring you candles, and they're filled with glitter, gold.
Gold, wow.
To light them, to really honor what you are doing in terms of service, but also to honor your own calling, your own sense of what you are receiving for you. Because in my experience, the intuitive life is about trusting that we receive the highest and the best in our service. So the candles are about celebration, and the stones have the words
knowing,
which again is honoring what you know. And I think too, it's for many of us, we get lost in the not knowing. So to start with where we are, start with what we know.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, thank you. Well, definitely, it's such a perfect timing, and I love how things unfold really naturally when we step in our dream or just allow all this to take place and open up. Because I am in a place right now after 3 months on the tour where it's really a matter of reflecting and looking back and taking it in and allowing all this amazing information right now that is shared, and that I'm having those conversations with you and a healer or best-selling author, and just taking that in and opening that up so that it opens new layers and heal to new levels. So it's interesting, because yesterday I asked for support and for messages from Spirit. So thank you for being here and showing up. And we're going to talk about intuition today, because that's really what you're gifted with, and that you speak to a lot of people about. So tell us what is for you the role of intuition in our life. I'm going to just put that down so that you're more at ease.
Well, I think the role of intuition, you've already said, is about the juice of life. And often in my workshops, I'll talk about live the magic, because to me, intuition is about magic. It's about what happens when I listen, when I receive. And from the time I was a very young child, when I listened, it was amazing. It was amazing, and continues to be amazing. So if we look at the word magic, probably one of the best definitions I've come across is by Madame Blavatsky, who started the Theosophy movement, and her definition of magic is wisdom applied. And so intuition is about knowing, and it's about trusting what we know and moving forward with it. So I'm currently writing a book on intuition, and it's called Own What You Know, and Know What You Own. And I feel my role as an intuitive is to remind, inspire, encourage others. Trust yourself. Go with what your intuition is telling you. And but there's a level of discernment involved there as well, as you know. So
there's challenges sometimes to hear that voice, because fear comes up a lot too. So sometimes there's two voices going on there, isn't there? So how do we face what are the challenges that you encounter in your own intuition to really know that this is the voice of intuition and nothing else?
I think the litmus test for me is what brings me to a state of peace. And when I allow myself to come to that state, then I know it's the intuitive voice. And, you know, because with intuition, we're working with our feelings. We're really trusting our gut. But again, feelings can be misleading at times. So I feel that the process of intuition is, number one, being receptive to the messages, because they will come uninvited most often. They will appear without inviting them. So intuition plays two roles. It's listening to the voice that has come uninvited, and then working with that to develop this relationship. Okay, what do I do with this? Where do I go from here? So to keep it pure and clean, there's a lot of letting go. There's a lot of releasing. And of course, as you know, in order for us to stay grounded and centered and focused, it requires a coming back, a groundedness. And so I think it's important to come back to commitment. I always talk about what's your stand. Take your stand. What's your stand with intuition? What is it really?
What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean is we're all intuitive. We all have that ability. But until we really embrace that it's there for a reason and we commit to it, we can get lost in confusion and doubt. So we must take our stand. And it's sometimes moment by moment, let alone day by day or year by year, right? It's in the moment. And so how do we know when we're making an intuitive decision? Well, there will be a level of just knowing and a level of peace. And on times when there's not, well, you know what? We do the best we can and keep going. But we are never left abandoned, ever, even though it may feel that way. And I think that's what's so important in the work that I do. It's about coming back to the self, trusting the self. Because when we trust the self, we are trusting that inner core of us that does know. And so often, especially in our society and culture, you know, there's the latest guru over here, or the latest book over here, or the latest workshop over here. And those are all great tools. But at the end of the day, what do I know? What do I trust? What is my truth? What am I moving forward with because I know that this is part of my purpose, this is part of my vision or my mission. So it's very organic, but it's very conscious. And because we're growing, and intuition will always take us beyond our comfort zones, always. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the juicy part, right? It's juicy like woohoo, and it's juicy like ah. And so it's all of it, and so embracing it all.
Yeah. But it's interesting to, when we are challenged in life, that's really when we wish we could tap in this intuition, but we feel like impatiently wanting to have the information, impatiently seeing signs, but that's not when those happen, really. It seems like it's better to wait. Is that what you're saying? To wait and be peaceful, and because sometimes we do really have to take decision really fast, and yet the world is a big it's spiraling around us, and we're not at that peaceful place. So what shall we do in those
situations? And we live more times in those situations than not. Again, it's I can only use the word trust.
Yeah.
And we make the best decisions we can and move forward. And from that place, there is a level of peace should we accept it, should we decide to accept it. And this is, I believe, the discipline that intuition offers. It's a discipline. It comes randomly, and yet it comes when we ask. So it becomes a discipline of, again, receiving the information and acting on it. And believe me, I am one of those people that I'm thrown into situations all the time where, oh my gosh, what do I do with this? And so at the end of the day, again, what's my stand? I make my decision and I move forward. I think the big thing that we fight with sometimes in our challenges is the word regret, because we're afraid of making a wrong decision. But you know, any of the great teachers or philosophies or of the world come back to this one truth. All is well in my world. All is well. And if we remember that, that's our stand. That no matter what decision I make, and so it becomes, at times, a war, an internal war inside. Which voice do I listen to? But at the end of the day, if we truly, truly honor what is occurring, we have choices that we make instantaneously that we can trust and move forward with. So it gets easier. Not easy, and yet easier. There's this ebb and flow. Does that?
Yeah. Do you have prompts or things that you tell yourself, or to call in that intuition? Do you feel we're also receiving help from the non-physical when we're tapping in the intuition? I mean, how do you connect with that?
The way I connect with that, and my experience has been that I know that from the personal experience I've had, I know that this is simply a tiny picture of what's really occurring. So do I call in my non-physical help? Absolutely. And the more I call in, the more I know. The more I know, the more I trust. And so what I'd like to use, what I call the ABCs. Intuition is a bold choice. And how do I stay in that place, especially when the pressure's on, decisions have to be made, or fear comes up, challenge comes up? You know, those times can be vortexes that can take us away. And so I just, years ago, I started teaching the ABCs, and to this day I use them myself. So A, that I accept I'm part of something bigger. B, that I breathe into it. And C, I connect to the heart. And when I breathe through the heart and make decisions breathing through the heart, similar to what heart math teaches, then I can move forward more confidently. And again, even though the situation may be challenging or scary, I can have a level of peace. And even if I don't have that, there's still something bigger that I know is carrying me. And you know, I have to share with you, last year my son was diagnosed with a serious illness, and it was one of the most terrifying, heart-wrenching times of my life. And as a professional intuitive, I can honestly say there was a point there where I felt not connected at all. Because it was my life before me in incredible pain and challenge, my son. But as I continue to bring myself back and bring myself back, again, being able to surrender to that deeper knowing within that could help me even when I had to let go and I did not have control. That is huge. It's beyond words what that process can do and does. And so I think that's my key foundation and my key message. We are not left abandoned. We are not left alone, even when it feels like it. And miracles occur from those darkest, most painful moments. That's where the miracle occurs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really want to see how you connect to this non-physical. Like, how do you actually have conversations or prayers, or is it really through the breathing and the heart? Do you see things, or is it really? I mean, how is that relationship with the what is your relationship to the non-physical, and how do you communicate with them? Do you communicate with them directly?
My communication takes place, it's like this background that's always there. It's very visual, but I also hear and feel. And so my sense is the group of guides that work with me, the individual guides that work specifically with me, and the only other way I can describe it is a conversation that takes place all the time. It's always in the background. So when I do readings for clients, I'm reading clairvoyantly, and I'm seeing things, sensing things, and just sharing the information. So for example, right now you have a group of guides behind you, but you have two specific standing right next to you here. So whether we call them guides or muses, they're there specifically with messages for each one of us. And we talked before the interview about what I was getting, for you and for Pete. So
the trusting part is really important now. We need to trust. Whether we see or not see, whether we hear or not hear, there is a certain knowing and a trusting.
Exactly, and
that we need to move forward with.
Yeah, and again, asking questions, like what do I need to know about this situation? And for example, my drive-in today was just one synchronicity after another. If synchronicity, if there was just one tool that I would encourage people to work with, it would be synchronicity. Ask and then notice. And that's the juice.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. Like, how are those signs showing up? Because you mentioned immatriculation plates, numbers, or on
license plates.
License plates. Sorry, that's my.
I'm famous for my license plates. Oh my gosh!
Is it?
You know how it all started?
No.
I was. Oh my gosh! I grew up in a family where anything to do with psychic or anything was really taboo. It was just, you did not go there, you didn't mess around with that stuff. It was wrong, it was evil, so I grew up with all this stuff. So when I felt, my intuition was telling me that I needed to investigate and study all things psychic, I was horrified. I was like, oh my gosh, what? So I spent many years learning as much as I possibly could. Make a long story short, I trusted and went for my very first psychic reading, and terrified, absolutely terrified. I was shaking when I went in. And I came out, and out of the conversation, we just talked about God. And we talked about the role that we each have to live our life in alignment with God, which from my perspective and my spiritual background was huge. So what was wonderful, I came out of the reading, and I had been listening to Wayne Dyer at the time, who talked about the Om and the Ah manifestation. So I got out, and as soon as I got into the car, there on the license plate in front of me was the word Ah. And ever since then, this amazing process of synchronicity has come into my life to remind me when I'm on track. So license plates will talk to me all the time. Recently I had someone tuning in for me, and she was saying, I see a bunny. I don't know what that means, but I see a bunny. Well, the next day my son opened up a pack of animal totems. The bunny represents possibility. Be open to possibility. On the drive here, now keep in mind how many cars and traffic patterns and all that stuff. I pulled out and there are cars in front of me that says bunny. It's Easter. Bunnies represent new possibilities. They represent new birth, new life. Everywhere I see the license plate, new. I know that I am being reborn myself. So Pete's t-shirt with the griffin, again, symbolizing my relationship with my son. On the drive-in, I'm seeing a griffin. This is important. My son is important. My work with him is important. My work with my intuitive work is important. The message is pay attention. The possibilities are coming together for me to expand my work. And also, the message, and who's ever watching this, is what synchronicities are in your life right now. Are you listening? And also the question is, what do you know? And are you moving forward with it? Are you trusting it? And if not, there's your block. And if you are, and things aren't turning out quite the way you expected, go deeper, ask, and then be open to the synchronicities. It's an amazing way of life, as you know, with the juicy.
Yeah, but as you said, we encounter blocks, and those happen.
And I think it's important to not look at them as negatives. I've really learned that in the work that I do, because they're there for a reason, and it depends on how we look at them, and to reframe, is this a block or is it a stepping stone? Because blocks are invitations to take us deeper. And when we go deeper, the rose continues to blossom. So again, where do we limit ourselves because we are not liking what we're seeing, or we're afraid of it? So again, it comes back to acceptance, the ABCs. Acceptance, accepting what's happening. And that brings forth a deeper layer of surrender into our knowing. Because we're just scratching the surface here, right? But as you continue to build the momentum with your work, as I continue to build momentum with my work, and all of us, we're hearing, we're listening, and this massive shift occurs. It's so important that we listen and we be courageous and know that we're not alone. So when you're out on the road, I'm going to be thinking of you, right? Someone else is going to be thinking of me, and we're all doing this together. And that's the key with the non-physical world. If we could see ourselves as the energy beings that we are, and we could see those individual filaments of thought, emotion, intuition, and this vibrancy of life all bubbling together. All bubbling together. And what is it producing? That is the question that we each ask ourselves. And am I allowing myself to truly feel it and live it in this moment?
What I found really interesting too is that you had some signs along the way that were talking to you directly, yet it was a message also for us. And a lot of teachers, you know, say usually what I'm teaching is exactly what I'm going through. So, you know, coming to this oneness that we're really, we are all you know, facing something, and we're all attracting each other at the perfect time, depending on what lessons or what teachings or what message we need to get.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know, I think again, the profoundness of the message, intuition works with symbols. So for me to have seen the griffin on the way in, to have the symbol of the bunny being open to possibilities, I am reminded that because we are all connected, we are all helping each other. And it's when no one can see us, right? So I love my workshops. I love to see the interaction with people. It's magic. But when I'm in a room by myself and going through my own challenges, that's the gift I'm bringing to those participants.
Mm-hmm.
It's that raw courage. That's where we're connected, and that's where all this behind the scenes with the non-physical world goes on. Again, we're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
We're not alone, and so to really the gift that we give to ourselves in appreciating who we are. And that's why you have those candles in gold glitter.
Mm-hmm.
It's about appreciating who we are. And I'm going to use the example of the corporate world where we're under pressure to produce.
Mm-hmm.
And we can get lost in that because we're not taking time to celebrate what we have accomplished. And so we're constantly being swept away with what still needs to be done instead of what is.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that your gift and what you're sharing here is to celebrate as we go along and to come back when it gets hard and to appreciate what you have done and what you are doing and go, wow, wow. So if we all continue to do that, then we go, wow.
Yeah.
And again, that's the law of attraction at work as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's easy to get lost in the targets and the goals. I guess in the corporate world you have a lot of those, and then we lose our identity.
Mm-hmm.
And the juice of life is really in the appreciation and the gratitude every moment, isn't
it? Mm-hmm. I think you really hit something there. It's about identity, and because we carry so many roles, you know, and again, my passion is working with people in the corporate world because we're more than employees. And I love working with parents because we're more than mothers or fathers.
Mm-hmm.
And bringing the heart to raising family and bringing the heart to corporations and how we do our work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the divine feminine. It's about the process. It's about bringing the heart into the process. And especially in the corporate world, wow, the more creative people are, the more they're coming from that sense of confidence and self-appreciation, the more effective, the more it gets done. And yet, sometimes in the corporate world, it's backwards.
Mm-hmm.
It's produce, 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 instead of, hey, wow, look at the gifts and skills you bring to this particular function or this particular job. So it is about identity. And I think that's the challenge. Whether we're in the corporate world or the spiritual world, the challenge is, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
You know, am I my role? Am I being of... And that's the danger in being of service as well, I think, is can we give so much that we're not taking time to recharge? You know, can we be so committed? And so we look at the most effective leaders in the world, you know, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Christ, who took time out, who left the masses to go into the desert to be alone. Some people could look at that as abandonment. Others could look at that and saying, no, that was a person who was honoring their true calling by having the courage to do what they needed to do for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as leaders, as intuitives, am I doing what I need to do to be fully effective? And we have to be careful because we can get those, we can almost reverse the poles, and then we're out of sync.
How do you broke free from the corporate world yourself?
Well, it's an interesting story. How I broke free, again, was this calling.
Mm-hmm.
And I fought it. I tell my clients I came into this work kicking and screaming the whole way. This was so out of my idea of something I'd ever do. But it wouldn't go away. The calling wouldn't go away. And finally it was just, I made the leap, and I started from scratch, from nothing, and built my business up. And interestingly enough, had the opportunity to go back into the corporate world last year. So combine both worlds right now. And so grateful for the experience, because going from one extreme to another extreme, and now bringing the two worlds together.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go back to what you said earlier. How do you make a decision when you're really under pressure?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does that happen? How do you know? And again, giving ourselves permission to make the best decision we can and trusting that and moving forward. And there are times where, yep, things work out, times where they don't, but the bottom line is, what was the intention behind the decision?
Mm-hmm.
And when the intention is to come from that highest place possible, I think this is the gift that intuition brings. Things don't always work out the way we think they will, but again, there's a bigger picture behind it. And the more we allow that intuitive process to take, the more we get to see that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So that opportunity that didn't work out, that we were devastated by, maybe in retrospect was the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
If you have a last little word for us on intuition for anybody watching, what would that be?
That would be
to leave us with. Inspire to follow our intuition every day.
You know, I think it would come down to one word: trust.
Mm-hmm.
Trust yourself. I love what God has said. He said, until we trust ourselves, we don't know how to live. Because trust, the intuitive voice, that is live the magic. That is the juice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What a fun time we had. Thank you. So informational and juicy tips to live a juicy life. Thank you. Much love, my beautiful co-creators from BC.
Salut.
Salut, à bientôt. Mwah. Awesome. Yay.
That is what the world needs.
Yes. Yes.
So.
That's what it's like, living a juicy life.
Yeah, it's all
living
about
a life
the
that we
juice.
love, because once we love what we do, don't we inspire others
Yes.
around us?
Yes, and the profound courage it takes to. We're not taught to live our juice, are we? We're not taught to drink from the water of life, and it's heady stuff, and it takes great courage to have the ability to say yes. And so the message for you was, keep doing what you're doing. And inside this beautiful box, which has a story of its own, yesterday, it came into my life. And I felt that the message for you was to know the extent of how much you represent inspiration to millions of people. And you have chosen to live a life that honors this calling that we all have. We all have callings. You have chosen to honor it publicly, to give hope and inspiration to others to do the same. So I'm reminded of a quote by a man who mentored Martin Luther King. And he said, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, and do that, because that's today. So I'd like to present you with a gift from this amazing place that we're all connected to. And the gift really is again about symbology. And
thank you.
I'm
going to show it.
Yes.
Wow. Interestingly enough, yesterday we were just around totems. For really the first time I was kind of introduced to the symbolism of it. So it speaks even more to me today than it would a week ago maybe.
Yeah, and this is specific for you. I had another box, and I was instructed, no, it needed to be this one that I only purchased yesterday. I did.
A message even for us for the Juicy Living Tour.
Yes, I did. Well, first of all, the role that synchronicity plays in intuition is huge. So on my drive here, I am seeing symbol after symbol, messages on license plates, just the bounty. And intuition is just about receiving the bounty that's there. So I knew that our connection was so important. And last night and this morning, really listening to the messages that I was getting for both of you and for myself in our meeting here.
My beautiful co-creators, we're in Vancouver, in BC, British Columbia, in Canada, and today I'm with Cheryl. Hello.
Bonjour, comment ça va aujourd'hui, hein? Ça va bien. C'est tout mon français. C'est fini.
That was for a little bit in French, but Cheryl is actually one of the most popular intuitive here in Vancouver, so it's really a delight to be here with you today and to see how the universe has brought us together. And you were saying that even on the way here, you had some amazing synchronicities and connections.